straight ahead.
Well, our tendency I would think is to right away, start looking at what everyone thinks around us and look for not necessarily advice, but to see what everyone else's thoughts are. If you keep your eyes straight ahead, you're keeping focus on the goal, on what you're doing. You're not focusing on comments from everybody, because it's very easy as humans to just pass judgment right away and to listen to everyone's judgment.
Yep.
And I think that one of the messages that we have to clearly push forward is the fact that we have to be looking ahead in the way we're going, because you take your eyes away from your going because you're looking at what someone else said. You might be the next one falling for not watching where you're going.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's so, it's just so it would be so unfortunate that just because you take your eyes off of your way, you'll be the next one.
I've never been a professional pitcher, but I know this from pitching in the games that I've pitched and what have you. If you're pitching a fast pitch, you almost have to put your eyes where you want that ball almost. I mean, for me, anyway. If I'm looking at the batter, I'm hitting the batter.
Right.
I'm going to hit it because that's where I'm looking.
Right.
And again, I'm not a professional pitcher. I'm sure they can disguise. Yeah. But when it comes to me and when I'm pitching, if I'm looking at somebody that's hitting, if I'm looking at the batter, that's where my ball's good. That's where it's going to go. But if I'm looking at the target, where my catcher is putting my glove, that's where the ball's going to go. Yeah. I think it's about looking ahead and not looking at all the distractions, Gabriel.
I mean, it's important to tunnel vision at some point. You have to tunnel vision. You have to tune your eyes. Paul made that clear, pressing forward towards the mark.
That's right.
And if we understand what the mark is and how to press forward, then everything around you, will serve its purpose. But at the end of the day, the mark is what is the most important. And also having in mind the law of Christ, Galatians 6, to restore someone with that attitude of, I was there once. I was there once. I can help you here. Yeah. And so we have to encourage ourselves to be that person of encouragement, because scandals happen all the time. And how do we get to the point where we're restoring such, in that mindset of encouragement and meekness and kindness? Yeah. We were there. We were there.
We've all been. Maybe you haven't, but I certainly have. I've been on the hurt side of scandal, and I've been the one doing the hurting. I never want to do it again. I pray that God would protect me.
We're praying.
And watch over me, and so that I wouldn't have to hurt people like that again. There are things about my own past that I'm not proud of. There are things about my life that I wish I could just erase. But the truth is, I've done the things that I've done. I was who I used to be, and who I used to be is so different than who I am now.
That's right.
That it's sometimes frustrating that people will still look at me and see who I used to be. Because when scandal comes, when people find out truths about us, they start to define us by what we've done rather than who God is making us into be.
Yeah, but the thing also is that if you keep your eyes forward, that we have to remember biblically, in the Bible, David was confronted with his sin.
He sure was.
And what he did once he was confronted defined David. Even though he had to pay the consequence for what he did, it defined him for the rest of his life as king. And sometimes we focus so much on what happened and not the response once that person comes to accountability.
Hold on, that's very good. Hold on, I want to touch on that. Sometimes we focus on what happened, that we almost give ourselves license to respond. However,
Right.
we respond. However, and even if our response is ungodly, it's immoral. Even if our response is gossip and slander, I mean, we justify our response by saying, "Hey, he was the one who was supposed to live right. So by him messing up, he gives me the right to say all this stuff."
Right. And that's.
I heard something that really impressed in me. Charles Swindoll, he said, 10% of things in life is what happens to you. 90% is how you respond to it. And so our response is really important. We have to be careful. We have to be accountable with what we're saying, and understanding that we could ultimately fall into some of the same things.
Oh, God protect us all. But the truth is, as a Christian community, this affects us all. It hurts us all. And I love to sit around here, and there's no few other guys that I would rather sit around with and horse around with and make fun and joke, and I'm sure we have a lot of reasons to laugh. But today I wanted to take this a very serious conversation because I don't think we can just keep laughing about our trivial issues when things so serious are happening right now.
And I think it's a good thing that is us that have been, get together, because we've been on both sides of the hurt. And, like you said, we've been the ones hurting, and we've been the ones being hurt. And, to understand that forgiveness is given to you, but the person that does the hurt has to forgive himself as much as he needs the forgiveness from God. And also that from the moment in which forgiveness is received, and the scandal ensues and everything happens, the process of restoration has to happen as soon as possible, because the more that process of restoration delays, the longer that person is going to take to be able to revisit all the things that happened. Because I'm pretty sure and it happened to me, is that if you don't revisit everything that happened, there's always something that's going to haunt you. And the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can revisit all those things that happened and what brought you.
When I was about, I guess I was about 24, 25, around that age, early 20s, an ex-girlfriend of mine went out and said that she was pregnant. And I went out and I looked for her, and I talked to her, and she told me between us that it wasn't my child. We became friendly, and we started hanging out again. And I almost, in my mind, said, I want to be here for her and this kid that's not mine. But, we had broken up, but we started hanging out again. Weeks later, she changed her story, and she started saying that it was my baby. And she didn't just tell me. She told her parents. She told her church. She told my parents. She told my church. It got around where this scandal that wasn't even true just devastated me. Because you can take pieces of paper, rip them up and throw them into the air. That's very easy to do. And guys, I'm telling you, for 2 years, even after the baby was born, people were thinking that baby was mine.
Oh yeah.
Because she never said it wasn't. And then 2 years later, maybe 3 years, I don't remember how long, she called me personally and said, "I'm sorry I did that to you. It's obviously not your baby." She married the guy who fathered that baby. But here's my point. Everything she said got so far carried by the wind that even if she tried to pick up all those pieces of paper,
there's still be pieces that
there's no way to get it all back. So what I'm saying is, most scandal is based on a lot of truth. Some scandal is based on lies. And we have to afford that possibility. We can't just assume that people are guilty.
Right. And there's scandal that is a base truth that gets blown out of proportion.
That's true.
And unfortunately, media has so much to do with how scandals are blown out.
And what's church media? Hold on. What's media in the church?
Church media. Hello. Hermana. But, and what's talking about church media, and it's really important because we're talking about scandals that happen inside the church. And it affects it has a deep effect, and I remember you teaching us about what shame is and what conviction is. And shame is, comes when everybody finds out what you did. And so
guilt is how I feel. Guilt is when I do it.
When you do it and you're repented, because guilt brings that conviction that the Holy Spirit can work, but shame
is how I feel when you find out about what I did.
Exactly. And so we have this this attitude in the church that how can we just bring shame on somebody? We want you to feel shameful. No, I don't think that's from God. I honestly don't think that can produce anything good. And so I've seen it time and time again how people have come, repented, and people don't look at that person anymore. They look at what they did. And so that person can't really, I mean, how does that person continue in that walk? How does that person continue in his faith when everyone's just looking at what he did?